because of these big policy changes, you have a whole bunch of Sunnis without a job, without the ability to bring in income, without the ability to provide for their families. And in a honor-based society, that is a huge deal.
Well, so what do you think when you imagine what the end goal is, or what the system of behaviors that we are trying to implement to achieve whatever outcomes? Where do you think that conflicts with what we're actually trying to get out of the Middle East?
Oh, so geopolitics. Okay. So like what I think happens is that you get old think in new environments,
Mhm.
and the systems in place that you start that help make things go straight, right? So it's not as chaotic, end up being the chains that lock you in a way that is not adaptive to what's happening. So I've been deployed a couple times. So here we go. So like '05 to '06. '05 was a very interesting year. September '05, because we won a year ago, 2 years ago ish. Uh, Relative peace in the first couple months of my deployment, and had been that whole year. '05 was a peaceful year in Iraq. No shootings, nobody was shooting at anybody. People just kind of figuring out like what is the new normal
Mhm.
type of thing, and what like the Iraqis were, we were, everybody was trying to figure out what the new normal is going to look like. And well, as things started to evolve, you try because there was lack of purpose. Like, what exactly are we trying to do? Like, look, we got rid of them. Now what? You know, um, and in a vacuum, other people will have ideas of what that's going to look like. We saw the same thing in Afghanistan in the '80s. We came through, yay, Russians are out. A little bit of like figuring out what the new normal is, and then in a power vacuum, uh, somebody else had an idea what that was going to look like. Taliban, you know, and then in Iraq from '05 to late '05, there were some significant decisions made that disrupted the peace. Now, if the purpose was to maintain the peace and create a stable government, the decisions that were made were not aligned to that.
So
Disbanding the
this was the debathification,
yeah,
right?
debathification, right? Total like, what are you stupid? But whatever, like this is what happened. If you're a Bath Party member, which was everybody, you
Right.
cannot hold a job. What?
Yeah,
And
let's take half the population and say, yeah, you're not going to be a part of this going forward.
yeah, well, way more than that, way more than half the population at the time, right? So
Hmm.
population, and this had some severe economic, not economic, ethno issues later, because you
Yeah.
had, so Iraq was 20% Sunni, 80% Shia, roughly.
And the
We
Shias are the ones that control the country.
No, originally it was the Sunnis. So originally Saddam was Sunni, Ba'ath is Sunni, all of them are Sunni, and they were done that because our glorious partners who decided to draw maps decided to put the smallest population in charge because they would fight for it, right? And so they did, and so that's why Saddam suppressed um, the Shia specifically. Shia is aligned with Iran. Iran is Shia, right? So
Mhm.
Iraq and Iran fought a war, which was very weird since 80% of the country was Shia, right? So that's how we supported Iraq in that time frame. Again, '80s, '70s, '80s, time frame. Anyway, but now because of these big policy changes, you have a whole bunch of Sunnis without a job, without the ability to bring in income, without the ability to provide for their families. And in a honor-based society, that is a huge deal.
Mhm.
Huge deal, right? What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean? Huge, huge issues now on the social side. And then certain Shia groups realized that the Americans were not going to be a dictator and that they were not going to put down the like this is the way we're doing business, right? Type of law. So they decided over time, it started small because 05 and then 06, it started very small, couple bodies here, couple bodies there. And then it grew into thousands of bodies here, thousands of bodies there, where they were doing basically genocide. So we called it sectarian violence at the time.
Kurds, right?
Huh?
It was just like they were killing the Kurds.
No, no. The Shia were killing the Sunni from 05 to 06 in sectarian violence because the Shia it also is all honor-based society who have been getting, burned, tortured, bullets, for years under Saddam, did honor killings against the families of the older Republican Guard and Iraqi soldiers and blah 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 blah. Anybody that had a slight, essentially. And over time, like it started small at first, just murders, right? But as we were tracking, because my job was the data track this stuff. By the end of 06, it was thousands of bodies being pulled up in sewage plants and other places. Horrible, 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 horrible stuff. Now, why did that happen? Well, because there's no rule of law. Well, who was going to put the law? Well, we were like, oh, the decision. We'll just let the Iraqis make the law. Well, who? How long? Who's enforcing what? Right? Like, are we guiding them or are we telling them? And we'll just guide them. We don't want to interfere with their. You don't want to interfere. You fucking threw them. well, that's interesting. I'm sure they're pretty confused. And what happened? They filled the void with their own version of what the new norm is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
Extrapolate that to 2021, 22, right? All this time. Add in the fact that Americans killed more Sunni. Oh, I'm sorry, ISIS. And like we killed the ISIS, we killed the Al Qaeda, we killed the whatever 4-letter designator that they were.
Yeah, there are no shortage of new
right
organizations.
No. And why is there no shortage? Is because of the policies, right? The framework that the I don't know if it was even on purpose, to be honest. Like I don't even think it's on purpose. Like I don't think anybody's that smart, right? To say we're gonna reshape it like this. No, I don't think there was like I think it was just 1980s mentality think, right? With processes built in the 90s that perpetuate a behavior and unable to adapt in the new environment. And so even though we did it for 20 plus years, the new environment kept shifting, and all it did was, I mean, quite honestly, is extend Iran's influence, right, all the way through Iraq. Got rid of all the Sunnis. We helped them get rid of the rest of the Sunnis that weren't compliant, because the Sunnis that weren't compliant were fighting back. We just call them terrorists.
Yeah.
Whatever. And then now, regionally, Iran has influence through everywhere we kill terrorists. Iraq, Syria, all the way to Lebanon.